Hello reception and welcome to today's guided reading session. I just wanted to give a big shout out to all of you who've been on Spelling Shed. I've just had a quick look on my computer and I can see Jessica and Jacob have been on in the last few days. Well done guys. So here is our guided reading book and it's called The Odd Pet. And we started to read this book on Monday and we're going to read the next part of the story today. So before we start, let's just recap the story so far. The story has the characters Kim, Jim and Viv in it. And Viv has an odd pet. Can you remember the words the author used to describe her odd pet? How many legs did it have? What colour is it? Have a think. Pause the video for a moment if you like. Now let's have a look in our story. Kim has a cat. Jim has a dog. That's right, I remember they didn't have odd pets. But Viv has an odd pet. Can anybody remember the name of the pet? It is a zog. Not a cat, not a dog, but a zog. Can you remember the sorts of things a zog was able to do? The zog is fat. It has 10 red legs. It can run and hop. It can sit and beg. I'm going to stop reading there because now it's our turn to read the next few pages of the book. Before we start, let's warm up our brain with practicing some of our tricky words. Hiding behind our stars are our tricky words. I'm going to press the star and we will reveal the tricky word. Can you say the tricky word with me? Here we go. No. I. Into. The. To. Go. Well done everybody. So let's remind ourselves of our learning objective today. It's to blend simple words. So we need our robot arms at the ready to sound out our words. And our reading strategy is going to be to use our phonics to help us read unknown words. Don't forget to look out for some of those new sounds we might come across. J, v, z, y. And the key words that I've pulled out from the text that we've been practicing reading, we're not going to read them together today because I think we'll know them by now. The, it, odd. If you want to have a go at practicing them, you can pause the video now. So let's turn to our next page. Let's start to read. The, z, o, g, zog, ats, has, lots, lots of eggs. Eggs. The zog has lots of eggs. Pause the video now and reread the sentence. Tricky word, the. The zog, zog. It sits on. Tricky word, the. Eggs, eggs. The zog sits on the eggs. It sits and it sits. The zog sits on the eggs. It sits and sits. I've got a retrieve question for you now. That means we have to use the information in the text to answer the question. What is the zog sitting on. Pause the video now and have a go at answering the question. Now I have an explain question for you. When we were reading, the author repeats the word sits. The zog sits on the eggs. It sits and sits. In that last sentence, it sits and sits. Why do you think the author repeats the word sits? Pause the video and have a go at answering. Then we'll come back together and we'll have a go at answering all together. Have you had a go at answering the question? It sits and sits. The author repeats the word sits to make us, as the reader, realise the zog is having to sit for a really long time. Here is the next page. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, tap, tap, tap. I can see the words are all the same. I don't need to sound out each one. Tap, 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 tap. What do you think is making the tapping sound? I think you might be right. It's coming from inside the eggs. What other words could the author have used to describe the noise coming from the eggs? The author has used something called onomatopoeia. That's where a word sounds a little bit like the noise we want to make. I wonder if you could think of any other words that the author could have used to describe the sound coming from the eggs. Pause the video now and have a go. Did you have a go at coming up with some words? I came up with the word crack. The eggs are cracking. Now I've got an inference question for you. What do you think is inside the eggs? And how do you think Viv is feeling? Is she anxious? That means worried. Maybe she's happy. Maybe she's really excited. I'm not sure how I would feel about having a lot of eggs in my kitchen cracking. I think I might be feeling a bit anxious. What am I going to do with all of them? Now we've finished reading the next part of our story. Here is your activity for today. Think about what other animals you know lay eggs. It might help you think about what might be inside the eggs. Can you draw a picture of them or write a list? Don't forget to use your phonics to help you. Perhaps, if you fancy a challenge, you could research an animal that lays eggs, maybe and create a poster. Have a go. Now it's time for our story. Now today I've got a very special book for you. It's called The Darkest Dark and it's by Commander Chris Hadfield. That's right, he's a commander. Actually, he's an astronaut and he's been to space. He decided to write a children's book. The main character in the story is also called Chris. I wonder if he wrote it about himself. The Darkest Dark by astronaut Chris Hadfield. Chris was an astronaut, an important and very busy astronaut. When it was time to take a bath, he told his mother, "I'd love to, but I'm saving the planet from aliens." When it was time to get out of the bath and go to bed, he told his father, politely, because astronauts are always polite, "Sorry, No can do. I'm on my way to Mars. An astronaut's work is never done, so astronauts do not like to sleep. But their parents do. You're a big boy now, said Chris's father. You have to sleep in your own bed. And Chris tried. He really did. But his room was dark. Very, very dark. The kind of dark that attracts the worst sort of aliens. But his parents meant it. Chris was going to sleep in his own bed tonight. His mum and dad checked under his bed and in the closet and even in his underwear drawer. They decided the room was 100% alien free. They tucked Chris in, they turned on the nightlight, they even gave him a special bell to ring if he was nervous. Clang, 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 clang. They took away the bell. And then his father said something that worried Chris even more than the dark did. One more peep, young man, and I'm afraid we'll all be too tired to go next door tomorrow. But tomorrow would be a special day, a very special day. Chris had to go next door. His life pretty much depended on it. So Chris stayed in his own bed, without a peep. It took a long time to fall asleep, but when he did, he had his favourite dream. He flew his spaceship all the way to the moon. The next day seemed to last forever, but finally, when the moon was shining over the lake and the summer wind was ruffling the leaves of the trees, Chris ran next door. The house was already full of people, all gathered around the TV. The only TV on the whole island. Chris found a spot where he could see through the crowd, and what he saw was astronauts, real live astronauts, on the actual faraway moon. They were wearing puffy white suits and jumping for joy, jumping so high because there was so much less gravity there. The grown-ups huddled around the TV were amazed. Their whole lives long they'd never expected to see this sight. Even Chris, who had been to the moon just the night before, was amazed. He'd never really noticed how dark it was there. Outer space was the darkest dark ever. That night, Chris did a little experiment. He turned off all the lights in his room, even the night light. It was still dark, very, very dark. There were still shadows that looked a little, well, alien. Nothing had changed, but Chris had changed. He'd seen that the darkness of the universe was so much bigger and deeper than the darkness in his room, but he was not afraid. He wanted to explore every corner of the night sky. For the first time, Chris could see the power and mystery and velvety black beauty of the dark. And he realised, you're never really alone there. Your dreams are always with you, just waiting. Big dreams about the kind of person you want to be. Wonderful dreams about the life you will live. Dreams that actually can come true. I really liked that story reception. Just goes to show dreams can come true. He did become a real astronaut in the end. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you for another session of our guided reading tomorrow. Bye. everybody.